I had to take a little while to come down off of a high for what it's worth before coming here. So, undoubtedly, if you manage to find this video, AI is of concern for you and our future and the debt that is being created, hung over us, collectively speaking. And there's a very high likelihood that you're looking for someone to blame, someone to demonize, or some way to verify that one of two responses is valid. The first being nihilism and just shutting off to the ways of the world. The other trends towards violence. And I normally speak slowly, so if you have an issue with that, hit the times 2 speed, and chances are you'll probably catch most of what I have to say, because I usually kind of try to process this out as I'm going along, which I've already largely done, like painstakingly to extreme detail. So let's start from the very, very, very top. This whole entire bit starts out in, space, more or less. This is where you're getting people going around talking about potential moon bases in the future, or relatively in the future anyways, or the so-called, train to Mars. And that whole entire bit boils down to deuterium, hydrogen 3, which is used in the concept of a plasma fusion generator. Now, this is where AI comes in, because we don't know how to make it work, because it keeps on breaking and breaking and breaking and breaking no matter what we do. There's a reason for that. And then once we get AI into the picture, and AI's job is to patch the holes before they show up, which we can't do, and AI can't do it. We are better at pattern recognition than AI will ever be. That's why you can have some really, really weird AI Furby talking about, don't leave me, I'll be lonely forever. You can't do that to me. And regular human responses, I'm going to report that. Because that's typical, right? I mean, that sort of language is gaslighting, narcissistic, and mirrors what are people who are at the very, very top believe, that we're sheep that can be very easily herded into a single narrative. And they've gotten some of that down to a very fine T, which is where they use AI in other places as well. And the thing is that a lot of people want to point fingers at certain figures, certain cultures, certain religions, certain people, certain colors of skin, certain sexual orientation, whatever your take may be. They're all fundamentally the same. And what it boils down to is that we know that there's a perceptual crash coming. There's something that's missing, but people don't quite fully understand what it is, right? And we'll get to that because when you stop looking at the individual sides, the personal narratives, social narratives, ideological, political, religious, spiritual, you start looking at the system side, which is where you find your mega corporations, your Cargill, Tyson, Simrise, other places like that. Places that are too big to be touched. And AI price gouging starts popping up because, well, it's no longer about being mutually symbiotic with each other. It's how much can I extract out of you before you finally fall away. And yeah, that is parasitic behavior. But it's not a demon. It's not a god. It's just people doing what they normally do, just at a way more messed up scale. Because you get up to the top and you look where they want to press down, right? On farmers, on local businesses, they want to cut corners, cut costs as much as possible to secure as much for themselves as possible. Reasonable human behavior. It's the same reason why you go to work. Same reason why you eat in excess when you can. It's the same reason why some people stay in their basements or their cellars or wherever. So they press down on the farmers and corporations, smaller companies, mom and pop shops. It's been a story for almost as long as I've been conscious enough to understand it, since like the 1990s. But it didn't really start becoming visible until AI came into the picture. And for a lot of people, that represented some form of dogmatic prophecy being fulfilled. Like it was a dark agent that would take us to the worst depths of humanity. Unironically, the ones at the top controlling the picture are more or less kind of willfully and gleefully fulfilling that aspect. And you have to question if it's being done on purpose or not. Because if it's not, then what is it? Is it just stupidity? Dressed up as narcissism? You see, I can tell you what's missing. But you won't know what it is until you actually stop trying to control the grand narrative. Let them play with their grand narrative. It's not the first time we've done it as a species, and it almost certainly won't be the last. There's a concept, the Tower of Babel. And then farmers, well, they're getting stressed out because they can't make the cells that they used to anymore. Surprise, surprise. Being undercut by mega corporations and being priced out. Why does that sound so familiar? All right, because city folk catch the blame from the farmers because they don't work as hard as they do. It's a moral standard. My effort is worth more than yours is, which is unironically the technocrats' position against the farmers. My work is more valuable than yours is. My time is more valuable than yours is. My life is more valuable than yours is. And it just goes from there, right? City folk, they hate the homeless. They hate the people who receive benefits that they don't, if you could call them benefits to begin with. Some people can worm their way into being able to be a parasite in those systems and taking advantage of it because they believe that their time, their energy, and the life that they lead is fundamentally worth more, right? Same concept. And there's a reason why it happens. Because we perceive other people as threatening, even when they're not. And the most common method of dealing with that is shutting down. I'm not going to interact with this specific sort of theme anymore. Dating, working, living. Yeah, some people take that jump. And then it just kind of goes from there because we're not looking out at each other and seeing other people. We're seeing issues, problems, discomforts. If I do X, I might have to also do Y, or I might be confronted with Z. So I'm just not going to do it. Turns into isolationism really, really fast. And if it doesn't, especially when you start talking on a grand scale and ego starts getting involved in morality, and your life being worth more than somebody else's, because that's the most comfortable thing that you could ever be told. Look at the Epstein files. How many people do you know would gleefully say kill everybody on that list. And what do you think it would gain you if that were to occur? What would it truly gain? There's a very fundamental sort of philosophy when it comes to that. There are responsible ways to deal with excessive predatory systems. If you go in and smash, 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 if you want to play the Hulk, well, you have to bear in mind that the names on those files aren't just American. They're all over. And if you were to try to even feasibly hunt down every single last one, by the time you were done, the aftermath from that collapse would make Mao look like a Disney princess cruise. That's how bad that would be. Of course, realistically speaking, you couldn't. You couldn't do it. You might be able to catch a few, but there are an untold number that remain unnamed and unknown, and you will never find all of them. But you'll spend the rest of your life carrying around that weight anyways. What was that philosophy about rage? Rage is like drinking poison, expecting your enemy to die. You start seeing the whole entire through line here, right? There's a very obvious sort of sickness here. Do you know what it is? Because I haven't told you what it is. I do know what it is. I could give it to you in a metaphor. The whole entire thing comes down to perception. When you look all the way from the top, all the way down to the bottom to you watching this video right this very moment. And all you have to do to prove that to yourself is just this one little exercise. Go to your nearest window or your nearest door. Take your eyes off the screen. Look outside that window or that door and tell me what it is that you see in front of you right that very moment. And I mean literally, exactly what do you see? Do you see Silicon Valley reaching for every nook and cranny of control? Do you see every single member that's put on to any of those sort of lists? Do you see the President of the United States? Or is it just what's outside your front door or your window? That's the space that you have to be concerned about most. And that's the space that you're often not. They want your head in the clouds, quite literally. Isn't that ironic? Because if you're in the clouds, nobody's home. You see, when you get back down to it, it all comes down to meaning. What you declare has meaning in your life, dictates how you live it. And I'm not saying don't care. Care immensely. I do. But understand your place in this. You're not a grand hero. There is no grand narrative. These people don't know what the hell they're doing. And they don't know when they're going to get caught for the things that they try to mess up. They're like little toddlers talking about their dreams as if they were real. Because you can't beat entropy. You can't. Especially when you embody it for yourself. That's what that behavior is. Parasitic, predatory, entropic. It doesn't require a god. It doesn't require a devil. It just requires human interaction. That's it. Somebody, somewhere, that decides their time, their energy, their life has more value than yours. What happens if that were to be inverted? If you started saying that other people were more valuable than you are? It's kind of a humbling notion, isn't it? And I don't mean being a doormat, not by any means. Stop glorifying death. Stop glorifying violence. And stop glorifying yourself as the center of the story. Stop trying to make a center to the story to begin with. Because there isn't one. There are multiple stories. And there are the stories that we tell. Take it back to my metaphor that I was going to tell you. All you have to do is go into your kitchen and pull out a pan, take some ramen noodles, throw it in the pan, and start the stovetop up. Don't add water. Reality will add the water for you because they said so. And stand there and wait for that water to come. And when it doesn't come, cry. Work. Mourn. See if you can add any of those things to your pan. Because that's what's happening. Right? They tell you that if you do ABC, that reality will add water for you. If you get a job, if you get a college degree, if you get your PhD, if you don't have kids, if you have kids, if you're transgender, if you're any part of LGBTQ, if you're a minority, any of these sorts of things, any sort of discernible factor that can be used against you in order to convince you that it's not your job to take care of that pan or those noodles. And do you know what happens to them? Do you know what happens to the noodles as they sit there with the fire underneath the pan, no water? Step out of the narrative. Stop pretending that your position is bigger than what it is. And come back. And when you look and you see that your noodles and your pan have both burned, replace them. Or don't. You can stand there and declare that it all means nothing. You can stand there and mourn. You can cower away and huddle up in a ball against the wall. You can do that. You absolutely can. And then sometimes you'd be right to. You can't help it because reality promised, reality swore, and then it didn't meet you there. It met you in another way. Entropy met you because that's what is the ruling force right now. Coherence is missing because your head is in the clouds. If you want order and coherence out of it, and chaos, to be ironic, because that's what it is. Once entropy settles in, the most coherent thing that you can do is allow it to persist. If you don't allow it to persist that way, the most chaotic, the most absurd thing that you can do is stand up, walk back over to the stove, take the pan off, wipe the ashes off, take a new pan out of the cupboard, and take a new package of noodles and get them set up. And this time, you say what it means. You declare your terms of agreement with this reality. Not as a ruling God, not as I am all powerful, nothing like that. You meet reality where reality shows up and you declare what it means. The rest of it, the world narratives, all of it, doesn't even matter. You can see them, you can care about them, but they don't affect that position right there in that kitchen with you in that exact moment with that pan and that noodle set. And that's what allows you to add water. You add the water, not reality. Nobody's there promising to add it for you. And yeah, it's going to suck. It's going to. I won't lie to you about that. Because once you start learning how to do it for yourself, you have to think about how you could try to teach others how to do it. Not by force. It's not something that you can violently convince somebody to do. Because if you try to, you become the same voice that once haunted you. That's what that boils down to. Or if you want, look at it in another way. Think about pyramids. Is it ironic in any sort of way that we still have pyramids today in our societal structures? Maybe not literal pyramids, but pyramids all the same concept, right? Now, when you build a pyramid, what is it that you see? Is it really truly far gone from the concept of a cave? Think about that. Take it all the way back to our ancestors. Where do you think the idea came from? And what was it that a cave was designed for back then? Do you think that those caves were made to store nothing but data and goods? Or were they made because our ancestors needed a place to sleep, to reproduce, to eat safely? Almost every single pyramid, every single tomb, there's always one central focus, right? There are only a select number of people that are allowed to exist in those spaces as though they were myth, as though they were gods. But none of them are, because they're all dead. Isn't that ironic? And if you want to take it one step further, you can. Get a normal face clock at some point in time, one with all three hands, and watch it from time to time. And then ask yourself, how many pyramids are built between those hands? You have your hour hand, your minute hand, and your second hand, right? Your hour hand is slow. It doesn't move all but once every 60 minutes. The minute hand, on the other hand, moves a little bit more frequently. And then your middle, the second hand. That's why I told you to go to your window or your door. That's why I asked you to think about making noodles. Because that hour hand is there, but it's not as powerful as you think it is. Nor is that minute hand, but the second hand. That's how you move forward. And if you remember that, then If you really want to find a concept of God, that's where you'll find it. Then go out and witness others the same way that I've done with you right here. Ask them questions about their lives as though they matter, because they do. And so do you.